They die in the rain, are you joking? Sergeant Cole stared at the blue-skinned alien commander whose face twisted in an expression that might have been anger, fear, or digestive distress. The translator in his ear buzzed, "We do not die in your precipitation," the alien GX snapped. "It is a highly corrosive liquid to our species. Your planet is toxic." Cole lifted his helmet and let the cold drizzle hit his forehead. "It's water." "Yes, and it kills us." Cole had seen some ridiculous things in his time. This one might take the prize. He turned back to his squad, all of whom were standing around watching the spectacle with the same mix of confusion and amusement. Private Danner, never want to miss an opportunity, stuck out his tongue and caught a raindrop. He smacked his lips. "Deliciously deadly," he said, grinning. Dra's blue skin went a shade paler. "You humans are a mistake. That's what my ex-drill sergeant said too," Cole replied, crossing his arms. "So let me get this straight. Your people landed on Earth, fully expecting to conquer us, but forgot to check if it would kill you." Jarek's shoulders stiffened. "Our scientists analyze your atmosphere, your gravity, even your microbial life. But your weather patterns were unpredictable. We anticipated adaptation would be required. We did not anticipate." He gestured wildly at the rain. This Danner leaned toward Cole. "So they're just standing there, getting acid-bathed to death?" Cole frowned and took another look. Now that he was paying attention, he realized the alien soldiers behind Dro were fidgeting, their armor sizzling in spots where droplets had landed. One of them let out a strangled gurgle and collapsed, steam rising from his skin. "Well," Cole said, "that's unfortunate." Chick straightened. "We demand a ceasefire." Cole blinked. "Ceasefire? You invaded us." "Yes," Jur admitted, his voice tightening, "but we were unaware of your planet's hostility." Danner chuckled. "This planet isn't hostile. You guys just weren't built for it." Another alien in the back fell over, writhing. The rest started backing toward their drop ships. One tripped and landed face first in a puddle. The resulting scream was enough to make even Cole wise. He turned back to Dro, who was doing his best not to look at his melting subordinates. "So you surrendered?" Dro swallowed. "Not to you," Cole's sighed, "buddy. I don't think you're in a position to negotiate." Jera lifted his chin. "Your species is an anomaly. We have conquered planets with greater warriors, stronger defenses, superior technology. But Earth itself fights alongside you. Its atmosphere is riddled with microscopic killers. Its waters corrode our flesh. Its gravity is heavier than expected. Its creatures are a bird." Screamed in the distance. Jera flinched so hard he nearly dropped his rifle. Cole exchanged glances with his men. "That's a hawk, bud." Jera exhaled sharply. "We lost an entire squadron to your hawks." Danner wiped rain from his forehead. "Are you serious?" Jero clenched his jaw. "They descended upon us in a coordinated ambush. Your avian predators are ruthless." Danner laughed so hard he doubled over. Cole fought the urge to do the same. "Let me get this straight. You showed up to take over our planet, but between the rain, the air, the gravity, and the wildlife, you're getting wiped out before we even have to fire a shot." JH's expression darkened. "I would advise you not to mock us." Cole took a step closer. "Or what, you'll shake your fist at a cloud and hope it stops raining." Jake bristled. More of his soldiers were sprinting toward their ships, now armor hissing, leaving deep footprints in the mud as they fled. One of them tripped into a shrub and screamed in agony before scrambling away. Danner pointed. "What, are they allergic to plants too?" Jay's silence was enough of an answer. Cole exhaled, rubbing his temples. "You do realize what this means, right?" Jero hesitated. "What?" Cole spread his arms. "You didn't lose to us, you lost to Earth, and Earth isn't even been trying." Jero clenched his fists, the rain pattering against his skin with increasing intensity. Another drop landed on his exposed cheek, and a faint wisp of smoke curled from his flesh. He winced, but didn't move. Cole studied him. For all his species' weaknesses, he had to admit this one had some guts. Stupid guts, sure, but guts nonetheless. Danner nudged him. "So do we finish them off, or what?" Cole sighed. "Let them run. They won't last another hour out here anyway." Drock met his gaze. We We'll return, Cole smirked. Not if it's raining. Drock's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He turned and strode toward the last remaining dropship, stepping over the bodies of his fallen soldiers, most of whom had been defeated by what amounted to bad weather. Danner shook his head. I can't believe we didn't even have to fight. Cole crossed his arms, watching the last of the ships struggle to lift off, engines sputtering, as if even the planet itself refused to let them leave. Earth's got plenty of weapons, Cole said. Guess we just never realized one of them was the planet itself. As the last alien craft disappeared into the stormy sky, Cole tilted his head back and let the rain wash over his face. He grinned. Welcome to Earth. The moment the last alien ship vanished into the sky, Cole turned to his squad. All right, let's make sure they're really gone. Danner rise. Check for stragglers. Rest of you eyes open. Just because they're running doesn't mean they won't do something desperate. Danner cracked his knuckles. If they try anything, I say we just hose them down. Rehea snorted. Cruel and unusual punishment. Cole smirked. Exactly what they deserve. The men spread out, stepping carefully over the bodies of the fallen invaders. Some were still barely moving, groaning softly as the rain ate away at their armor and exposed flesh. Cole shook his head. For all their supposed superiority, these aliens had done next to no research before launching their invasion. He'd heard of underestimating an opponent before, but this was another level. Hey, Sarge. Danner's voice came from up ahead near the edge of the forest. You're going to want to see this. Cole jogged over, his boots sinking into the damp earth. He found Danner standing next to something half buried in the mud, a piece of alien tech about the size of a small car. Its surface cracked open like an egg. Wires dangled from it, sparking weakly in the rain. A thin stream of blue vapor drifted into the air. What is it? Cole asked. Crouching. No idea, Danner admitted, but it looks important. Cole examined the strange markings on its surface. He wasn't a scientist, but he'd seen enough alien junk by now to know a control module when he saw one. If they left this behind, it means they were either in too much of a hurry to grab at it, or they couldn't think it's a weapon. Doubted if it was, they would have used it. Race joined them, whistling. That thing still active. Cole ran a hand over the surface. The metal was warm to the touch, humming faintly. Feels like it. Rice took a cautious step back. I don't like it. What if it's a beacon? Cole frowned. If it was a distress signal that meant more of them could come back, he wasn't sure whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. On one hand, another wave of these Morans would be just as easy to defeat as the first. On the other hand, if they actually figured out how to survive here, things could get ugly. Danner poked the device with the barrel of his rifle. It let out a weak beep. Sighed. Right, well, we can't just leave it here. Reyes groaned. Come on, Sarge, you really want to drag some alien junk back to base? Cole stood. We either take it or we blow it up. Your call. Reyes muttered something under his breath, but started unspooling a length of rope from his pack. Danner grinned. See, that's the spirit. Together they lashed the strange device to a metal sled meant for hauling supplies, then started the slow trek back to camp. The rain had finally started to let up, but the damage had already been done. Pools of steaming alien goop marked where their enemies had fallen, and the few structures nearby were blackened with the remains of their advanced armor. By the time they reached the forward base, the rest of the unit was already busy collecting whatever scraps of alien technology hadn't been destroyed by the weather. Some of the newer recruits were still trying to process what had happened. Hey, Sarge, one of them called out. You see any of them up close? Cole nodded, dropping his pack near one of the makeshift tents. Up close, far away, screaming, running, pretty much all of the above. They were softer than I expected, the soldier admitted. Thought they'd put up more of a fight. Cole ran a hand over his damp face, shaking his head. They weren't ready for us, Danner scoffed. They weren't ready for Earth. The load chuckles spread through the camp. It was true. Humanity hadn't won this war with superior firepower or brilliant tactics. No, Earth itself had done most of the work. The only thing the humans had to do was stay out of the way and let the rain, air, and local wildlife tear the enemy apart. But Cole knew better than to get comfortable. If the aliens had any real sense, they'd never come back. But if they did, he glanced at the strange device. Strapped to the sled, if they did, maybe. It was time to start thinking about how to bring the fight to them by the time Cole got back to his tent. The alien device was already causing problems. Danner had set it up on a crate, poking at it with the butt of his rifle. It's glowing now, Cole sighed. Of course it is. A faint blue light pulsed from deep inside the cracked metal casing, flickering in slow, deliberate bursts. It wasn't steady enough to be a power core. This was something else. Rise had his arms crossed. We should have left it in the mud. Too late now, Cole muttered. Any idea what it's doing? Danner tapped it again. The pulsing quickened, and the entire unit let out a low hum. The sound crawled up Cole's spine like an itch he couldn't scratch. Rise took a step back. I don't like that. Yeah, no kidding. Cole crouched beside the device, inspecting the exposed wiring. It didn't look like a bomb, at least not one he was familiar with, but it was definitely active. Danner looked around. Should we unplug it? Cole frowned. It's an alien machine. For all we know, pulling the wrong thing makes it explode. Rise nodded. Right, so let's not do that. The humming deepened. The pulse in light grew faster. Cole's gut tightened. Then the device spoke. The voice was tinny, distorted, like an old radio picking up a broken transmission. It wasn't in English, but the translator in Cole's earpiece struggled to catch up, filling in words with awkward gaps. Oris response requested immediate assistance. Required. The three men exchanged glances. Danner raised an eyebrow. That sounds a lot like a distress signal. Rise groaned. You mean we just hauled an alien SOS beacon back to base? Cole clenched his jaw. Looks that way. Danner threw up his hands. Perfect, just perfect. We should have drowned the thing in a puddle. Rise looked up toward the sky. If we can hear this, someone else can too. That was what worried Cole the most. The original invasion force had barely lasted a day before Earth itself started wiping them out. But if this signal was reaching deep best, then more were coming. And if they sent reinforcements, they wouldn't make the same mistakes twice. Cole ran a hand through his damp hair. All right, we shut this thing down now. Rise gave him a flat look. And how exactly do we do that? Cole considered his options. He could order one of the engineers to rip it apart, but if the aliens were smart, they'd built safeguards to keep it from being tampered with. Blowing it up might stop the signal, but it might also do something worse. Danner stepped forward and slammed his boot into the side of the device. The blue glow flickered, then steadied. The voice returned stronger. This time, orbital response unit deployed. Arrival in 7 hours. Cole felt his stomach drop. Rise stared at the pulsing metal box. I hate this thing. Danner took a slow step back. A Sarge, that sounded bad. Cole straightened. His mind was already working through what this meant. The first invasion force had been cocky, overconfident, unprepared, but this was something different. If their enemies were sending reinforcements, they wouldn't just be another wave of clueless foot soldiers. They'd be ready. Cole turned toward the rest of the camp. We need to get moving now. Ray stiffened. You think they're sending another invasion force? Cole's jaw tightened. I think they're sending something worse. Danner swap followed. So what do we do? Cole didn't hesitate. We get ready to teach them why they should have stayed away the first time. Cole had been in plenty of bad situations before, but this one was shaping up to be the worst. 7 hours. That was all the time they had before the next wave arrived, and this time their enemies wouldn't be underestimating Earth's weather. The entire base was already in motion. Gear was being packed, ammo was being distributed, and the remaining scraps of alien tech were either being destroyed or loaded up for study. But the biggest problem still remained. We can't fight them head-on, Reese said, standing beside Cole as they watched the storm clouds gather again. If they come down in force, we don't have enough firepower. Cole nodded. Which is why we don't fight fair. Danner grinned. Now we're talking. Cole turned to the rest of the men. Listen up. We already know these guys aren't built for Earth. They're stronger than us, sure, probably faster too, but they can't handle our rain, our air, our wildlife. Last time they didn't expect it. This time they think they're ready. That means they're coming with gear to survive: suits, shields, Something to keep them from melting in a drizzle. Rise folded his arms. And how did we counter that? Cole smirked. Simple. We make sure their fancy tech doesn't work. Danner blinked. You mean sabotage? Cole nodded. Their ships are going to need time to land and adjust to the atmosphere. We hit them before they can get their defenses up. We hit them while they're still trying to figure out which way is up. Rise exhale. That's going to take precise timing. Cole checked his watch. Good thing. We know exactly when they're coming. The storm rolled in fast. As the countdown neared zero, Cole and his squad had already taken positions in the hills surrounding the landing zone. They weren't the only ones. Every available man had spread out waiting. They had no artillery, no heavy weapons, just rifles, explosives, and the unforgiving chaos of Earth itself. And then they arrived. The first ship cut through the clouds like a blade, engines flaring as it slowed for descent. Cole could already see the difference. This wasn't some flimsy troop carrier like last time. This was military grade, reinforced, built to endure whatever Earth threw at it. Cole pressed his radio. Wait for it. More ships followed, breaking through the sky, dropping toward the clearing. Cole exhaled. All right, boys, let's introduce them to the real welcome party. The moment the first ship's landing struts touched the ground, the hidden charges went off. Explosions ripped through the tree line, sending thick clouds of mud and debris into the air. The aliens barely had time to react before the first wave of booby traps triggered. Crates of stolen alien tech, rigged to overload, short-circuit anything electronic, and just like that their fancy suits flickered and failed. Cole watched through his scope as the first wave of soldiers poured out of the ships, only for their environment shields to sputter and die. Then the rain started. Panic set in almost immediately. Some tried to scramble back into their ships. Others desperately activated emergency seals, but the damage was already done. Their armor, designed to handle hostile worlds, hadn't accounted for this hostile world. Cole didn't even have to give the order. His men opened fire, cutting down the scattered aliens before they could regroup. It was an absolute slaughter. The ones who managed to escape the bullets had bigger problems: mud that sucked them under, jungle creatures that saw them as an easy meal, and of course the endless, unrelenting rain. Danner whooped. I think they're regretting that distress call. Reyes picked off another struggling soldier. They won't be sending another one. Cole watched the chaos unfold. The battle, if it could even be called that, was over before it started. The few aliens who managed to survive the landing were already breaking ranks, retreating into the wilderness, a death sentence on this planet. The last ship tried to take off, but one of the explosions had damaged its thrusters. It barely got 100 feet before spinning out of control and crashing into the trees. Cole lowered his rifle. I think that settles it. Ray shook his head. They were supposed to be the apex predators. Turns out they couldn't even survive a drizzle. Cole exhaled. Let's clean up and keep an eye on the sky, just in case there's any more idiots out there who think Earth is an easy target. Danner grinned. After this, they'll be telling horror stories about us across the stars. Cole smirked. Good.